ending a relationship too soon or too late? Like, and I know you can't give me the answer of like, there's
Hmm.
no magic number of when you
Right.
should be figuring this out, but like, say a guy's in a relationship and you could always keep growing and trying to figure out more things about her, yada yada, but when have you crossed the point, or what's that process like of, okay, I need to end this now, or we need to
Yeah.
agree together that, okay, this is not going to work out. Um, uh, because I think that's a lot of a struggle people have of like, all right, when do I end this? And they just stay in relationships too long, or at the first sign of any little tiny red flag, they leave, because they don't. They
Yeah.
don't want to spend more time than they have to, or than they think they have to. So
Yeah.
can you shed some light on that?
Yeah. If you're dating in a healthy way, you're gonna have a team in this process supporting you, and your team, um, starting from the top, but they're all important, is God, uh, like a professional or someone who's like very experienced, like a priest or a counselor or a therapist, trusted friends, like someone who has some credit, also has some, people who will be honest with you, often family, and then your own gut. Like, how do you feel, right? So these are the people on your team. And I generally don't recommend to decide to like end a relationship, and I'm saying relationship on purpose, right? Because you can, have a go out on one date with someone. That's not a relationship. But for ending a relationship, I don't recommend like doing that on your own without consulting your team, um, because there's a especially if you haven't been married, um, uh, there's a lot of things that we may not appreciate that are critical for married life and that are not critical for married life. We
Hmm.
might also, feel like something is not going to work out because only because we haven't learned how to cope with it, right? Like we just don't know the way to cope with it, right? Maybe we need to grow. I mean, and usually that is part of the process, is that we need to grow in our expectations and our understandings and the way we're responding to something we're experiencing. And so that's what your team can help you with. They can put things into perspective, right? And they can protect you and from making a decision that is too early or too late. And they can help you with that stuff. The problem is that we often talk to no one, or we talk to the wrong people. That's the problem. And I don't think we should. That's not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, I like the idea of the team, but I could see the upside. I could see the value. Obviously, you have all these people giving you valuable perspective, but I can also see Abuna saying one thing, your friend saying a different thing, your family saying something else. So how do you juggle all that? You're the one in the relationship. Abuna probably doesn't know much about it, and maybe your friends do if they hang out together. But how do you manage all that? Because sometimes people get conflicting advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think usually if it's clearly working, a lot of these things will align. The family one is not always.
Hmm.
That one's like, when I always say family on your team, I always say often, usually, but not always, because some people's family members kind of off the wall, like they're not really there. They're not helpful, and so yeah, but usually these people will align. And if you've set up a support system around yourself that's healthy, um and I want to say that in life, you usually get different points of view. And part of
Hmm.
learning how to be an adult is learning how to sift through the advice and understanding people's points of view, and people's like positions, so that when you listen to their point of view, you know where they're coming from.
Right.
So yeah.
And I think you use the word relationship intentionally earlier. I think a lot of people dating don't know if they're in a relationship because they slide into one maybe without really knowing it or
Right.
without communicating it. I'm a big advocate of like deciding together, like talking about it, as opposed to like, you just there's this vague assumption that we're going to hang out all the time because we've been doing that
Yes.
for months, right?
Yes,
And it's
Andrew.
very
Yeah.
unclear what's going on. And I know guys don't want to bring up this conversation because it's like, am I like, back to our earlier point, am I being vulnerable if I'm like, what are we? And I'm not saying like, say, hey, what are we? But make a
Yeah. And
decision
honestly,
together,
yeah,
like,
I think
hey,
if you're gonna
we're
do it
gonna
right, don't say what are we. Say what you want it to be.
exactly, yeah, yeah,
Like, and put it out there and
right,
say like, hey, I've enjoyed going out on dates with you. I love getting to know you, and I want to be more serious about this. Um and get to know each other on a deeper level, and
right,
keep growing and doing that. And like, do that. I think that's really important. But do not, like, nothing in any healthy relationship, people's intentions and expectations should not be unclear.
hmm
And that's really important.
yeah. And I think when you enter it in a clear and healthy way, like, okay, we're in a relationship, this is what I want. You can exit it also in a clear and healthy way, as opposed to like, all right, we're just not texting each
Yeah.
other anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, I just say I'm busy now. Like
Yeah.
it gets really, and I think both sides kind of get hurt by that.
I agree.
Um,
I agree.
so because like, well, if you didn't make it clear that you're in a relationship, it might be awkward. Like, how do I end something that we never really said it was, so um, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Totally.